Start. Get on down the road.
Here's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
Flooding. We're seeing it in the southeast, and now thanks to Hurricane Floyd, we're also seeing it up the east coast.
We're also receiving the worst of Hurricane Floyd as we speak, hopefully the height of it now, and better news by mid-afternoon, but unrelenting rain and very high wind out of the north. Details ahead on Weather Center.
Hurricane Floyd is on a fast track into the northeast. Now, in some ways, this movement, this fast movement, can be a good thing. We'll explain why in this edition of Weather Center. Hello and welcome to this special edition of Weather Center, sponsored by Honey Nut Cheerios. I'm Heather Tesh. We are continuing our expanded coverage of Hurricane Floyd. The hurricane's winds have slowed a little, but its speed along the coast is now moving a little bit faster. Heavy rain is now covering a large part of the mid-Atlantic and the northeast. Here's how things look right now. It is tough going. We have rain moving up from the Carolinas into the mid-Atlantic, where we have heavy rain in Philadelphia, around the Washington, D.C. area, New York City. We're also seeing some of that rain spreading, becoming a little heavier up toward the Boston region, and we can also see some lighter rainfall around Portland. We'll see more of that as we continue to head through the day into the evening hours. It is going to be a tough commute home for a lot of folks, so if you're expecting somebody, they'll probably be a little slow in getting home. We'll continue to hang on to the very wet, rainy conditions, and we're also having some problems with some flooding. That too will be a big problem over the next 24 hours. Now for the latest and for more on what Floyd is doing and what you can expect, we're going to turn it over to Marshall Cease in the Forecast Center.
Thanks, Heather. Good morning, everyone. Hurricane Floyd's been with us a couple of days now, the fifth hurricane to make landfall along the North Carolina shore since 1996. Now, let's take a look at the current statistics on it. As of 9 o'clock this morning, it was center of circulation was at 36.0 north, 76.6 west, near Edenton, North Carolina. Now, that's about an hour and a half ago, so you can push that about 40 miles, probably northeast of Edenton, perhaps. Wind still 90 miles per hour at 9 o'clock, and its barometric pressure 962 millibars. There are hurricane warnings that exist north of Surf City, North Carolina, all the way to Plymouth, Massachusetts, northward. That's on the east side of the forecast track, and on the west side of the forecast track, tropical storm warnings are also in effect for many of the bays from Delaware Bay northward, including Merrimack River, Massachusetts. And here you have it, right on the border of North Carolina and Virginia is the center of circulation, moving north-northeast, and it's bringing very heavy rain to it. As you just saw, Bill Keneally stationed off at Solomon Island along the Patuxent River. We're going to go to him in just a minute. And there are tornado warnings, tornado watches, make that a watch, that was in effect up until just about an hour or two ago. It looks like the Storm Prediction Center has discontinued that tornado watch that was in effect. The heavy rain has moved northward along the coast into southern New Jersey now, and we expect the full brunt of what the remnants of Hurricane Floyd will be to move into the New York City area perhaps later this evening. New York is preparing for Floyd's arrival. New York City has opened 20 shelters. Power companies in New York City and on Long Island are telling people to expect power outages as the storm comes through today. The Long Island Power Authority is putting 3,000 workers and 2,500 vehicles in the field today. Long Island is expected to bear the worst of the storm. Suffolk County beaches are closed. In New Jersey, a state of emergency is now in effect. Governor Christie Whitman ordered schools closed throughout the state today as a precaution, and extra power company crews are on standby to respond to power outages. Virginia is also feeling the full effects of Hurricane Floyd right now. The eastern part of the state's being soaked with heavy rain, and flooding has shut down many of the roads, including Interstate 64 in Newport News. And we spoke to Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore just a short time ago.
Principal concerns that we have is flooding. There are many roads right now that are flooded, including portions of Interstate 64 and major roads that go down into Hampton Roads. There's high water in a lot of places. We're very concerned about flash floods, and we have taken steps to ask people to get out of low-lying areas so that they're not in any danger.
Governor Gilmore ordered the mandatory evacuation of some low-lying areas of the state. The hurricane has also knocked out power for tens of thousands of people in Virginia. Our crews are keeping you up to date on the storm this hour. We're going to check in with the Weather Channel's Bill Keneally at Solomon's Island, Maryland. Bill, you've been pelted with rain for the last several hours. Doesn't look like an end for several more. How are you doing?
Well, we're doing okay, except the wind is now starting to back around or turn counterclockwise, Marshall, around to the north-northwest. And these are like BBs coming at my head right now, believe me. And as the wind is shifting, it's getting stronger, probably gusting in the neighborhood of 50 miles per hour as we speak. And there's going to be some unrelenting rain. But I think the back edge should be in here within a few more hours. So folks in the area south and east of Washington, hang in there. It's going to get better after mid-afternoon. Show you a little video, Marshall, take you back and see what happened here earlier today. Got a pan of the bridge, and that's off to my west. That is the Highway 4 bridge. It's still open, believe it or not. Fairly high bridge, probably about 80 feet up or so, but they may be closing it very shortly. Also, looking down the docks here, when we had the northeast wind, we were not getting a lot of big waves because the land is protecting this area, Marshall. But the fear now, I'd say, would be with the northwest wind. We're going to start seeing some of that water rapidly getting pulled back out of the bay. So we're going to see some wild fluctuations in water levels here. Speaking of water levels, we have probably had on the order of 8 or 9 inches of rain. And you can see the wind here blowing crazy. It's probably as bad as it's going to get, though. So, folks, as I've said, we are just about at the height of it. The rain, it's incredible. After this incredible drought, we're now looking at close to a foot of rain out of this one system before it's all said and done. So we'll continue to batten down here and send you back to Atlanta. Marshall?
Thanks, Bill. Now, the Weather Channel's hurricane expert, Dr. Steve Lyons, is at our expert desk. Dr. Lyons, what's ahead for Bill and further to the north?
Well, Bill's going to get some more rain for the next few hours, and then it's going to slowly taper off, and he's going to get into better weather. Up to the north, they're going to get higher and higher winds over the next 24 hours, but the system is going to be weakening as it moves to the north, so it's not going to be as bad as we think thought it was originally. Now, here's the latest infrared satellite image. You can see the circulation center is just crossing the border of North Carolina into Virginia. And so Norfolk, you're about getting the worst you're going to get probably. The shower activity is very heavy. The winds out of the east, most likely the east, will turn more toward the northeast. Once it turns toward the northeast, you know the system is passing you either just to the east or just over the top of you. And right now we're expecting some significant low-lying flooding from those easterly winds pushing into the bays and estuaries there. And you see this big plume of high cloud. That's the general direction the system is going. And when we look at the visible satellite imagery here, you can see the circulation center is roughly right here with huge streamers of high clouds spinning out from it and low-level warm air coming in this way and cool air from the northeast here. So we've got a big trough axis right along the coast, and that's the direction with which the tropical cyclone's moving. You can see it right now moving right along that frontal boundary there, and behind it, it's very, very cool. Back behind the system, back in here, wind coming around out of the northwest behind it. The winds are brisk offshore there, but they're also very cool. Here's the track projected path. It's going to cross by Washington, D.C. to the east anyway, late tonight, and then later tonight, and then very late tonight, just offshore from New Jersey, and then heading in toward the general area of just to the east of New York City, near Long Island, or just east of Long Island, and then heading toward Cape Cod Friday morning. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Currently, the latest wind gusts, these are gusts of wind. Here's a 71 mile per hour gust that just offshore of the Carolina coast. Now keep in mind, this area was really ransacked by Dennis, so that erosion that had already occurred is going to hurt that area already. Even though the winds are not that strong, they're probably going to see some more erosion damage. So we'll give you an update every 30 minutes. Now back to the studio.
Thank you, Dr. Lyons. Now, remember, you can check out the latest reports this afternoon at weather.com on your computer, or you can email us, I should say, you can email us with your own personal report of what you've experienced during the storm. That's at storm@weather.com. And now for the forecast, we'll return you to Heather in the studio.
Thank you, Marshall, and we'll continue to see some very wet conditions here through the mid-Atlantic today in the Northeast, and you can see the Carolinas picking up that rainfall now, but we'll start to see some improving conditions through here as we start to see things lifting a little bit more to the north as we head into the evening hours. Still very rough going for folks in Pennsylvania, also very rough going for folks in New York City, Boston. You're going to have that rain coming down, so it's going to be tough going for a lot of folks through here. Rain amounts we're looking at picking up throughout the day, 5 to some places maybe even 10 inches of rainfall. So it will be very problematic for a lot of us as we continue to try to deal with some of these very tough conditions. Now we know Hurricane Floyd's wind and rain will make travel impossible in some places. Which areas are seeing problems? We're going to find out more with travel conditions with Dennis Smith.
We'll be talking about airport delays as well as travel problems across the country coming up.
This program was sponsored by Honey Nut Cheerios, a taste so irresistible, nobody can say no.